increase in tax revenue.
And the
I'll
dearest
try to read my
thing
notes.
is, if you can believe
Front and
it,
back.
they're gonna raise between 2 and 3%. But the paper that was sent out says it was 10%, which that thing is worthless.
Yeah.
Heather also said that those are almost always wrong.
That's something the state mandated that they had sent out, and that all the facts.
Yeah,
are-
that's what I read.
It's bullshit. So,
Yeah, Heather said almost all those are gonna be wrong when they get sent out, cause it's an estimate.
Yeah.
just doesn't make any sense. So they couldn't understand how this all works. The one guy that had some commercial property in Benton, his went up an awful lot.
Well, was this year the year that commercial things got reassessed? You know, it's a 3-year cycle.
I know that. I don't know that for sure, but it probably was, but he said in 1 year it went up 21,000 or something like that on the taxes. So it's,
I'm not sure.
you know, that, the one at, the union school lasted 20 minutes, half an hour, just wasn't really too much other than it was talking about the referendum. But this thing at, Benton County went on for an hour and a half, and they never quit. I mean, it just kept going and going. So I don't know what, see, Tama County had their meeting too, somewhere in Benton County. I don't know, I didn't get to that one either. Same time.
Gotta flip it over.
Well, it wasn't the same time. It was the same time as the union meeting, I couldn't get down there.
All those meetings happened around the same
Right.
time.
And then this funeral didn't help a bit. I mean, it was right in the middle of it.
Well, when I heard about that, then I said,
You're done for.
I'm done. I was at that church yesterday from 1:45 to 1:45.
Hi Wade, how are you?
Yeah, I know. That's.
Confused. Aren't we?
Figured about it 2 days later, it still could have helped a lot of stuff.
Yep, yep.
As far as, well, we have to go to. That's the way it goes. It is what it is. All right.
Then back up and back to the church before, a little after 8 this morning, moved down to Cloutier. But I had told John, I said, we need help, cause they've got a lift there, but it's not big enough for casting. I said, we need some strong guys to take that upstairs.
So you need some real polders.
We need some poles. There was 6.
It is, that's what I assumed.
But
Hi.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Here, this was also their main slide last night.
You know it's all seated?
Neighbor did. I was getting the ground ready for it.
Can you read my notes? I don't know.
Yep, yep, I can.
Level out waterways to outline a little bit. You guys both have water?
Yes.
Hey, Hi.
Thank you, sir.
Sure, it's all right if I close this, isn't it?
I have no idea.
I don't, yeah, I think you probably close it, push it off to the side. Is this yours?
No.
Then I would just close that and push it off to the side.
Doesn't make any difference, sure.
Mark.
Yeah.
I didn't even see that.
Anyone, the public speaking here tonight on the agenda. Other discussion down here.
That doesn't mean trouble.
I know. I already sent it to him in the email, so I got mine in there anyway.
Okay.
I was gonna repeat it.
What did you send? It's in.
I'm feeling good about that, I sent it to him, Stacy tells me, and them guys get it.
That's our,
When Ray gets it,
yes, that
he
blue
sends it off.
folder
I've done that too.
has.
Everything underneath this.
What I always think about it, I do a good job, I guess.
He's the same gentleman that sent that article that Craig sent there, and I told Craig I just printed it on.
Yeah. So there's one thing in there that is confusing, that's the email from Brett Aaron.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I talked to him today, did he email it the other day?
Well, he just gave it to us. I didn't, I'm just reading now, but,
Oh, he didn't forward it to everybody but Doug and stuff, I guess, didn't he?
yeah, I haven't seen this. Yeah.
Okay.
I had a conversation with him, and he said basically,
Yeah, it was just you.
we can sign off on the
David
on the
Turner
other policy, like the five
at our
of us,
DOT
we all
meeting, he said he went down to the Tama
He
County.
said that other information
tax
we put in
thing,
there more
there was only
pertains
2 people showed up.
Okay, cause I was gonna say, that's not really a
They had set
policy,
up
it's
something,
really just
supposedly a fourth.
guidelines, so.
Right, right.
Okay, so that was looking this guy.
I mean, the city.
City is
Okay,
taking,
okay.
So.
not the.
Yeah, 'cause I was
county,
a
he
little upset
went
about
to the
that.
city.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So wait a minute. You made her, Kurt.
That mayor wasn't late as I thought it was gonna be.
So we'll see how many show up at divers. Correct.
Which night is that?
Not even early yet.
It's a little later. I think you're right, that's sure this thing along. But it may join you one more time.
That's not a bad idea.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, recorder's on.
Quit swearing, right?
Yeah. Don't talk about nobody.
It's April 9th, so it's a way long.
Oh, on this multi-page, I just made one copy, if you need more, just let me know, I didn't know if you guys wanted a hard copy tonight or not. It's, like 29 pages. Of the. I got one, I printed it off. Okay, if you need one, just let me know, I didn't know who had it printed off and stuff already or not, so.
Do you have a copy of that land use policy then for tonight for us to sign?
Oh, yeah, I got the sheet here to sign.
When we get to that point?
Did you have the draft, or I thought that you had the draft, if not, I can make one. Otherwise, I've got the signature page here.
I know when we talked earlier, you said you'd have one that would have our names and then a line for us to sign.
Yep, I've got that, where did that go?
Problem for the school board, they're all young, they don't know nothing about budgets at all. They brought up the land trust. Not one of them asked for any kids in it.
Well, I did print it off, and I don't know if it ended up in one of your folders or what.
Okay, we'll buy a bus.
I haven't seen it.
Theoretically.
Theoretically.
I don't have to bring this.
You need
Like,
like-
I did.
Can't.
There's a page with,
Right.
Signature page.
Signature page.
Which one's not asking, so.
Yeah, I know.
Nope. You go to my folder here, no, it'll say it was something else.
Someone said they want to buy this bus, they want to use one. But nobody asked for it, that's cool. I think a lot of compressed natural gas buses, like all that, or big buses are. But this is
Well, I can go back and get another
Again,
one.
they need it to all sports around.
That might not be a bad idea.
Sure, I stuck it in there. Did you say that you didn't have the copy of the, there was a draft, and stuff, you didn't have that?
So I might have it somewhere.
Cause I just printed off the,
26,000 sales.
signature page.
Nobody told me that city.
That's the latest
Of
one.
the land use policy or?
No.
Oh,
This is our last.
Nobody's trying.
Yeah, that's the one.
Well, and then the amount of taxes
With the
being
update.
charged.
Is that?
To the residents, it's in report for all the.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah,
so
that's
bad.
what I just did
It's
after.
just terrible.
I just keep laying on the latest draft.
Yeah.
On my, computer, it's like
Our start.
draft one, draft two, draft three, I kept them all, cause I'm worried about losing them.
Mhm.
For next year. Because of
I can print another one and go down and get it, or you can
increase.
sign it after the meeting too.
Well,
It's up to get it, right?
Yeah, it's, I run it off, but we got 7 years. That's why I wondered if it got mixed up in one year.
We should sign it tonight, I think.
Oh, yeah, it's dated, I've got it dated and everything,
Right.
tonight, so it could be signed.
It's down at the other building there.
Yeah, but after the meeting, I can run and get it too.
I like the gal. It's after 6, so we better get started.
Yeah, you're right.
Call the meeting to order. Let's say our pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Board plan the tentative agenda for tonight. So we'll need a motion or look it over, see if we need to change anything. Do we wanna move that E, review and sign updated land use plan approved by the attorney? Do we wanna just do that before we adjourn then, Bob, or what do you think?
However you want, I can do however you want, I can go and get it, or while you're having discussion too, that's no problem.
Why don't you get it after your opening remarks? You wanna do that?
Sure can.
And we can work on through.
I apologize, I don't know where, I should
Well,
have in my folder, but I think I mixed it up with somebody else.
I misplaced stuff.
I don't see it.
Had all these people coming in there at the last minute, and I was trying to put papers together, and told them I had to get going.
Well, I guess I look for a motion to approve our agenda.
I move. The agenda be approved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve our agenda. Any discussion? Not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. And let's look over our previous minutes. I know Carolyn, she's not here tonight, is she? Here to us. Made the comment where you see the setbacks. She made the comment that we got a half mile from city limits, we only have 1,000 feet from occupied residential area, or 500 feet from a non-participating owner's property line. That was one disagreement that someone wasn't happy with. That the people in town were entitled to half a mile, but the people out in the country that weren't in favor of it were only entitled to 500 feet from their property line. I just wanted to reiterate that. Well, if there's no more discussion on it, I'd entertain a motion to approve our previous minutes.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
Then move and second to approve our previous minutes. Is there any more discussion at all? Not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed nay. Motion carried. Opening remarks by our administrator.
Okay, we have, one comment came in from Al, so, he may wanna read that himself, or have you read it, you all have that in your file there. And I was notified, Craig had sent me, for Mr. Paul Lovell here, who's, present tonight, that he's got information for the board as well solar as well as the, community, based solar that was, brought up, last meeting. He was on the agenda there as well, so he can answer questions as well. I included that article that, they sent, so you guys have copies of that.
I think I sent that all to you, and I thought I did that right.
Yes.
Yep. So, the board's been doing a lot of hard work and, saving myself a lot of time, and I really appreciate it. You guys have been doing a great job, and everybody is working very well together. And, it is very greatly appreciated, so thank you so much. That's all I have for that. I will run down and get that copy then.
Sounds good.
Continue the discussion. If there's anything else you can think of, just give me a holler.
Al, do you wanna read your comments, or should we read them together ourselves, or?
That's up to you.
Why don't we go ahead and read them if you don't mind.
Give them again, and maybe I might embellish them a little bit, because, I'm talking instead of just reading them. Anyhow, my comments started out with what Bob said, the zoning commission's doing a great job, you're working really hard to get this thing done. But, there are some things that need to be included. Tatum County must not have any liability from the utility solar panel generating plant not during construction, when generating power, or when the plant stops generating power and removes all material from the site. And then does the land go back to ag use? And how will the land be taxed when the solar is not generating power? So some of those questions need to be answered. And then, are there provisions for the Tama County Sheriff to enforce the regulations we have in place? If there's no authority for the sheriff to enforce regulations, nothing will be done. And I remember that when it was working with the other supervisor who had some things that was on the Salt Creek that they wanted changed. And the sheriff said, I have no authority to fine them or do anything, so we couldn't stop them from doing anything because there was no authority in the regulations. So, soil erosion must be controlled during all the different stages of the solar plant. Noxious weeds need to be added to the regulations so they don't let the weeds grow. Also, the county engineer needs to have the authority to assess damage to the solar company when the damage to the road is caused by the solar company. And so he can't just report it and nothing happens. This needs to have some teeth in there that he can access the solar company and say, you have to pay so much money to fix this road. Give him the power. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe that was in the road use agreement.
I was thinking that we had that.
Yeah, I think that his last point there, I think that was in the road use agreement, that they had the ability to assess damages to the project owner. Was it the engineer that we gave the zoning administrator, I wonder?
I don't think it specifically said the county engineer, we should
Yeah,
have.
okay.
I don't think that was.
I'd have to dig back.
I'll read back through it
For the
today.
exact verbiage on
So
that.
under
but-
road use?
Yeah.
Okay.
There are some counties, the soil erosion through all stages, some counties address that very well. I'm not sure how that is in ours.
So, let's see.
That is something we'll wanna make sure is in there.
We have the developer of the solar farm energy system shall prepare a road use agreement with Tama County secondary roads, submit documentation, that clearly outline the roles and responsibilities regarding the use of county roads during construction, as well as repair of any such roadways that are damaged as a result. The agreement shall be accompanied by an estimate of the total cost for the repair of roadways. Goes into the cost, estimate. Financial security, construction notification, monitoring and emergency repairs. Let's see. The administrator and county engineer shall monitor the construction process and notify the developer of any major damages to county roadways or utility infrastructure have occurred as a result of these activities. rendering those roads or utilities unusable without immediate repair if deemed necessary to ensure the safe and efficient movement of traffic. The administrator may require the developer to cease with the continued transport of solar equipment, use of detours. The cost for completing such emergency repair shall be borne by the developer. That's all we have.
So the last line, you said cost of repairs would be borne by the developer.
Yeah, the same as any other repair activities after construction is complete as outlined in section B.
But enforcement of that is, that's
There's-
kind of the key.
Yeah, we don't have anything in here.
Okay. What would we wanna put in there? How would we word it?
County engineer would have to be the one to
Yeah.
determine that, I would think.
So we would recommend the county engineer would have the authority to assess fines.
Assess damages and.
Yeah, there
place-
you go.
I think we need to make a note that we want that in there, and we'll have to find out how to legally word it.
Yeah.
To be
Yeah, I
correct,
think
so
so.
that.
Do you want me to just go ahead and type in this and just put in parentheses that we need to?
Right,
And then the
that's easy,
sheriff
yeah,
has the authority, if the
Okay.
engineer sees something,
So it's like, yeah,
legally it
legally,
should be enforced, however the wording needs to be for that. Adair County has, for the comment about, liability, Adair County has, for solar installations over 50 KW on county property, from the style of the zoning administrator written indemnification, we've had a lot of stuff on that kind of stuff. This is proof of insurance for financial responsibility to claim up to $1 million in the aggregate, which may arise from the operation of the facility or during its life informed by the county attorney. And $1 million nowadays isn't all that much, but it is kind of addressed. It could be, I'm trying to think of ways the county could be liable, and maybe there's some damage to a road, and the county doesn't get out there quick enough and fix it, and then there's an accident, and the county gets blamed because they didn't fix the road, repair the road. I remember years ago, somebody came down from Minnesota, and they went across a bridge, and it was icy, and they hit the side, and they sued the county. And it was millions of, it was the county's fault. I mean, I'm thinking somebody from Minnesota slides on an icy bridge, but the county was that Story County or?
I don't.
So another way the county can be liable is if the equipment is damaged, or, and flies through a fence and livestock gets out. Because somebody's gonna have to respond to that really quickly, and that's how it is even right now, on any county land that there is livestock in. The fence is, somebody's gotta, we carry insurance for where our cattle are, and I bet every cattle farmer in here does. So there's another way, livestock getting out through a fence damaged by damaged materials. Happens so fast.
I think that needs to be shown, we're talking about tonight on the agenda, permitting, and during the permitting, they need to assume liability that could be as a result of something from the zoning. And how that's worded for that to be in there, but I think that needs to be shown during the permitting process, that they accept and that they have insurance or the escrow money or whatever to cover that. But I don't, the proper way to word that, when we go through some of these permitting procedures, like Des Moines and Madison County have, and I printed off a bunch of them here. Got copies. But, of those two. Well, I mean, I don't know if we just make that comment that needs to be
Yes.
moved in and vote on that, or.
I think that's next on our agenda is to discuss the permitting and review procedures.
That could be.
So maybe, if you got an extra copy, Wade, of,
No,
which one was it I didn't have? I've got Des Moines, I don't have it together.
Des Moines, Madison.
Putting them in good shape, I guess. I've got the signature page attached to, I've run off
mine here too, aren't we?
On Madison's.
Alrighty.
Let's see.
Is this the whole ordinance?
Let me read it.
Just the permitting.
So just when I have anything?
Are you guys gonna take other comment now, or are you gonna wait till the end?
I don't think we've decided yet. There's Des Moines if you need that.
I don't have anything for permitting, so, okay, thanks.
Do you need Des Moines?
I got the one,
You got it?
I got the one, yeah.
Oh, yeah, comments.
Are there some other public comments that we want to entertain at this time, Laura?
Laura Wilson from Dysart. As part of the document I had sent a while back, I'm not sure if you'd had a chance to review that. Many of my comments were relating to permitting and review. So I'll just touch on a few. Like I said, you do have these comments already from what I've sent. But at least one other county includes a set in the application process for getting plans approved by the county engineer before the application is getting voted on, which I think that'd be a good thing to make sure the engineer agrees that it would work for that area. Try to use enforceable language such as shall and must, because sometimes ordinances leave a very gray area by using they might do it or they could do it, or you want to be something that's enforceable by whoever you choose to enforce it. I would like to suggest adding a section to cover project ownership transfers as part of the permitting process, either as what your plans are when you plan to sell it. Many of these projects do get sold after they're conceptualized, so if you have that up front so they know going in that part of the permitting, it would be helpful for both the county people reviewing it and the people that are submitting it. I think that it would be great to add more to the application process, such as requiring documentation that all neighbors within a 5-mile radius have been notified before any easements were able to be signed for the proposed solar project. Also that the developer must provide a water runoff plan to prevent flooding or erosion to neighboring lands. I'd like to suggest maybe a 12-month expiration of any conditional use permits. I know most companies would do that ahead of time, but as we've seen with on the wind side, there was no expiration of those, and it's been, by now, any studies that they've done are way past their validity. And they should need to be done again, but that's not part of our current ordinance wording. So if there was an expiration that they would need to reapply after that certain 12-month period, then any studies could be updated. And then any new updates could be included in that processing. I would also like to request consequences for noncompliance. This would go more toward review than the permitting. But for the review side, consequences for noncompliance of ordinance or the permits relating to the solar projects, such as $10,000 per day per violation with the possibility of revoking permits would be one suggestion, up for debate, of course. And then lastly, try to add a public comment or complaint process so that citizens that feel that there's been a violation can know who to submit their complaints to. Our current ordinance for wind, like we don't have one for solar, but the current one for wind and many other ordinances, it doesn't say who you're supposed to go to for your complaints. Many are obviously the sheriff if it's a noise complaint, but some other things you don't know if it's like, do I go to someone at the admin building? Do I have to go to the sheriff? Is this a sheriffable offense? So
it doesn't keep getting passed.
Right. So if you wanted to go to the engineer to be covering that, or if you wanted to go to the sheriff or whoever, maybe come up with a line of succession for which parts of the ordinance need to be enforced by whom. So those are just some suggestions I'd sent in before. I do still stand by those even though they were written a while ago.
Is that from like
I-
back in,
I originally sent this February of 24, but I know I'd resent it to everyone after you guys had been on the board again. So.
A lot of those things that you mentioned are addressed in these two in different.
And then one thing to follow up from last week, I noticed you have setbacks again on here. Someone had mentioned after the meeting, so it wasn't discussed during comment time last time, but it sounded like your setbacks from a cemetery were going to be further than the setbacks from a non-participating landowner. And it just seemed odd that that would be further further distance for those people that are no longer living than those people that don't wanna live with it. So,
That was where that started. Let's see.
which I'm not disagreeing that, you know, respect the cemeteries and all that, it seemed odd that they were not the same. Thank you for letting me comment.
Found it. Got your.
Wow.
I keep everything.
In addition to that, she's a rural trader. I wasn't here for the last meeting. Something you said about the previous minutes where the setbacks are a half a mile from city property, but how much did you say from rural acreage owners?
It starts out saying 500-foot minimum from non-participating owners' property line. 500-foot minimum from their property line.
Okay.
1,000 feet from an occupied residential area.
That's the whole acreage.
500 feet away from the property line of the whole acreage.
Correct.
Okay.
Livable area.
And when we said 1,000 feet from occupied residential area, did we mean a home when we said occupied residential area?
Well, you're talking about a whole entire acreage, that one.
1,000 feet from the acreage?
I believe last week you were discussing like barns and shops that people worked in even if they didn't live in it. So you just want to clarify the wording, because a lot of other ordinances I've seen have talked about occupied residence as the home, the dwelling, and not the working buildings.
But it be associated with that dwelling. The word residence is in there.
Right, but the way they say residence, they mean like the home, not the guy's shop who he spends 8 hours out.
What we discussed was like the building site, you had a garden here and you had, and, you know, your living area.
Yeah, we just gotta clarify the verbiage on it.
Yeah, you just have to clear up the verbiage.
I know what, yeah.
Said we needed the attorney or somebody that.
Well, a lot of these rural
Phrase it correctly.
acreages, some of them are quite small. There's a house, a garage, and maybe a shop. So that really should reflect from the property line, not the house.
Right,
That's what it is.
Yes, it is,
Okay,
right, not from the house.
and that's not going to be changed, or that's kind of set in stone here, or?
Well, anything can be changed, I mean, this is just recommendations to the Board of Supervisors,
Okay.
so.
But it isn't clear up to the side of the house, it's
Yeah.
out to the property line,
500
property line
feet
going
away
on.
from the property line.
Right.
Okay, all the way around.
If that's, but if, you know, if it's a 160 acre field and that isn't the occupied residence, it's the working area, kind of
Right.
what you call it, the acreage or the homestead area.
But if anybody's living there, it is 1,000 feet, right?
Mhm.
From an occupied residential area.
But then that also does leave, if somebody wanted to build in that area that's only 500 feet from the property line, if they wanted to build a new build a new building there that they're gonna work in, they would have to do the waiver to be within that setback then. So then you're kind of cutting into,
The setbacks only apply to the solar field, it's just like a hog building, I gotta be a quarter mile away from a residence. If someone wants to build a house 100 feet across the road from my hog building, there's no stopping them.
right,
So they don't have to apply for a waiver.
except that they
to
wouldn't
build a
want
house.
to because they wouldn't wanna be that close to your hog building
Well,
on their
that's
own.
the same thing as a
on
solar
their own
field.
property.
If they don't wanna build there, they don't have to build there.
But then that's still affecting what they can do on their property if they have to do a waiver to be within that setback distance.
I understand what you're saying, but you can't mitigate through every scenario that might happen either.
We need to try to though.
Yeah, Karen, unfortunately, Craig is onto something, because there are just plain nuisance people out there that want to, they wanna have something to complain against farmers for. And you wouldn't think anybody with half a brain would build next to something that they don't like or they despise, but sometimes they just do. So he's spot on, unfortunately. No, not.
I won't take it personally.
No,
I
unfortunately,
understand.
it's unfortunate that is going on in this country, in this state. Not unfortunately that you brought it up. I'm glad you did, Craig. Thank you. It's a true story, yeah.
If
you look at it the other way too, all of the rules that they're coming, that everybody wants imposed, nobody will be able to build anything anyway, so you got it taken care of.
Stop all development.
But then
Yeah.
maybe include a
It's all
line that
taken care
says,
of already.
if a person chooses to build at a later date within that setback distance, that is on them to approve with the zoning coordinator or something. Just so that the people that are abiding by the setbacks at the time they're built don't get yelled at for, hey, I can't do on my property, and you're obviously not gonna move your solar farm, so. I don't know how you'd wanna add that or not.
There's always, exceptions, what do we call those, variances?
There you go.
That are a possibility down the road, I believe it's the zoning board.
Board of
Board of Adjustment does a thank you. Can deal with variances if you want to vary these. Yes, Andrea?
So, just to be clear, what you're saying with your 500,000 feet is whichever is, okay, if you have your house at the field side of your acreage, it's still gonna be 1,000 feet away from your house. So it's whichever is the greatest distance. Is that?
You got we're given 1,000 feet setback from residential house area.
500 from the property line, but if there's a house closer than 500, or than.
If it's in that area, it's 1,000 feet from that property
Right,
line.
whichever is the furthest distance,
If there's a house,
yes, so that's,
Occupied.
yes,
Yeah.
occupied
So
So
residence.
now I'm all sorts of confused now, so. So, if there's a house but nobody's living there, it's 500 feet from the property line. If there's a house there and somebody's living there, it's 1,000 feet from the property line.
There
Is
you go.
that right?
There's a whiteboard up there, you guys can do little drawings to work it out.
that's what I'm trying to do.
We need a lot of things.
So for an occupied house on an acreage, it's 1,000 feet from the home.
From the acreage.
So,
From your property
From your
line.
property line.
Property line of the
You
acre.
just said 1,000 feet from the house.
I meant the property line.
What do we
So,
1,000 feet from the property line for an occupied house on an acreage?
yes, and 500 feet if it's from the property line, if it's not.
So like your acreage, the property line of your entire acreage, you'd be 1,000 feet setback from it.
To the closest.
Yes.
Yeah.
If that makes
Being that
sense.
it's occupied, yes.
Yes, yes.
So yeah, let's say that, well, your backyard goes back quite a ways, let's just say it's 1,000 feet, it's not quite. If it's 1,000 feet back there, then they'd have to be another 1,000 feet from that property.
Yeah.
No property line
Yep.
for an occupied house.
But if it's just a field, then it'd be 500
Correct,
feet from the edge of a field.
correct.
Has to be unoccupied.
Yes, Karen?
so there would be a huge difference between Julia Benda's house that has set empty because she's been in a nursing home versus Leo Benda's house that is not any longer livable. So there'll have to be a little bit of a clarification on, is it a house because, empty because the old person, it's just not, it's in estate
Or if the windows are blown out and they're just not livable.
versus abandoned and falling down raccoon house.
So do you call it a habitable house?
It has to be something,
We have to specify
The
raccoon.
raccoons are living in it, is it habitable?
not normally,
Yes.
Depends who you talk to.
that depends who you are, yeah,
Yeah.
but you know what I'm saying.
It's gonna be hard to.
And who would decide if the house is inhabitable?
Habitable, yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
Can we pass that on to the Board of Supervisors, Heather?
Whatever you wanna do.
That looks like a good assignment for you guys.
A legal question, yes.
That's just a legal thing, if it's habitable or not habitable.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people try to live in uninhabitable houses.
Right.
Are we trying to be too strict with this?
Yeah.
What if PETA gets involved or something?
Never did.
All right.
Lots of what ifs.
Yeah, I mean, that's, the variances take care of it.
Any other public comment before we move on to looking and reviewing these permitting and
probably seen the editorial that I wrote. If you read the bottom of the article, you saw I grew up on a farm just south of Morrison. So I'm from this area, have fond memories of coming to the sale barn, eating the good food at the Tama sale barn, taking my fur pelts over to Ludwig Shedda over in Chelsea. So I'm familiar with this area and everything. But I'm here because I am director at Howard County Energy District, which is a nonprofit that promotes clean energy. And then I'm also work with siting for clean energy districts in the state of Iowa. Kent is here with the Tama Clean Energy District, so that's why I'm here. Basically, I know you're working on the particulars. I'm here just to pitch the generals. If you read the article, you saw it. Howard County has had a lot of benefits from clean energy. It's a concern for rural counties because right now the state basically has a cap of about 2% growth on counties unless you're growing your tax base. And so when concrete's increasing by more than 10% a year, it makes it hard to balance budgets, and you can only cut so much. And Howard County went from having to abandon bridges and roads to now we've built 30 additional bridges, bought equipment, financed improvements to county parks. So we've seen a lot of benefits from clean energy, and that's part of the reason I do my job is there are a lot of benefits, especially for rural counties. I'm a rural person. I want to see rural areas strengthened. But I'm also not here to do a sales pitch for any particular development either, because you all will decide what happens. But I do think you should keep enough flexibility that you don't shut the door to everything. Lynn County did a really nice job. They basically got opponents and proponents together with a working group, and what they did is they got these people together. They literally put them on a bus and they went to different projects. They went to a solar farm that was in existence for 5 years. They went to a brand new one. They went one in construction, and everybody was there. Everybody saw the same thing. Everybody could ask questions. And when they got back, they got together as a group and they issued statements and recommendations to the Planning and Zoning Commission, but those statements could only be put out by consensus. And then that was published. And it was a good way to get people talking to each other, with each other, because Lynn County, they had some very tense situations with their planning and zoning. They had to have security there because they really thought things were going to get violent. So I guess, my recommendation is to do something like that, because one of my concerns is the direction you seem to be going with solar is it might close the door to what we call community solar. Community solar is a smaller solar type system. Like in Howard County, our REC has 2 community solar fields. They typically are under 10 acres. And what that does is it enables people, maybe I have a house that's too shaded to have solar, or I have an older house that the roof can't support rooftop solar. What community solar enables me to do is I contract out that with the energy provider at a certain rate. And so basically I own a portion of those panels, and so I get the financial benefits from those panels. And I don't know if your REC here does that or is considering it, but I'd hate to see the door shut on that. And you can have smaller utility scale projects as well. Once again, our REC does have a small scale utility scale solar, and that's 11 acres in size. I totally understand that somebody doesn't want to have a 1,500 acre hellscape next to them. I totally understand that, but I also think that by basing solely on CSR, that's an overly narrow view. I think we need to take a wider view, because you need to look on how that affects the local economy, how that affects transportation, recreation, because again, those dollars put money into the economy, they put money back in people's pockets. if I'm saving 2 cents a kilowatt as a customer because I have community solar, that gives me more money to spend here. So there are a lot of benefits. And I included that score sheet from Lynn County. That's just an example. I'm not saying you should do it, but if you know with their scorecard for solar, they take into account what sort of vegetation gets planted. They take into account the distance from neighbors with the scoring. They take into account if the neighbors get what they call a good neighbor payment. So and then that project gets scored. And that's just an example. I mean, you can do what you want, obviously. You can come up with your own scoring, but this gives a good subjective way to score a project, whether or not it gets approved. And some counties too have put acreage restrictions, like Al-McKee, their energy district there came up with a solution they're very happy with. They basically, to do a carve out for community solar, Al-McKee County went with a 30-acre max limit per project, and then a 1,500-acre max for total for the county. Because they are very concerned about tourism, because they're in the Bluffs area. So they have concerns, obviously, too. They don't want tourists to come and see this ginormous solar farm. So I guess I just want to encourage you to have some flexibility, and I hate to see it be overly focused on CSRs, because that farm ground is not going to be lost. If you go to a construction site, they do a real good job of banking the topsoil, putting it back in place, and if you, if they plant it into short grass prairie and forbs, basically it's like a long-term CRP. You got 20 years where it's building up organic matter. And then when that 20 or 25 years is over with, the project gets decommissioned, you can go back and farm it again. Also, there's studies that showed if there's enough forbs planted, flowering plants, that surrounding soybean fields, the yields will increase up to 20%. And then going back to the REC community solar, those community solar fields are grazed by sheep. They have a farmer that contracts out and grazes the sheep flock in those solar fields, and he moves them back and forth. So just because it has solar doesn't mean it's not going to have any ag. And again, I mean, there's lots of flexibility. A lot of developers are flexible, and again, I don't want you to totally shut the door. And I've talked to Kent, our organization. If you do want to do anything like that, we can provide transportation for groups of people to go to different projects, because a lot of times people have a fear of the unknown. Right. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and our organization, Clean Energy Districts of Iowa, we can provide transportation. If you do want to get a working group together, where we take people to different sites and everybody can talk things over, because a lot of counties are dealing with this or have dealt with this, and we can go take a look around. I just would hate to see you rush anything or close doors that would prevent people in the county from benefiting from it. So,
fire away at you with some questions.
Yeah, but I probably won't know a lot. But hey, no, you can fire away.
What's the longest solar farm that you have been around? How many years has it been in existence, I guess, that you're familiar with in Iowa or in your county?
Familiar with?
In your
Right.
county.
In our county, we just have, like I said, we just have 3 small ones. Howard County is much more big into wind energy, and I know that's really controversial here, but we have a ton of wind, and we've had a lot of success with it. With solar, that's why I'd love to take you to Lynn County. Lynn County has had way more solar projects than we have in Howard.
I mentioned at a previous meeting, I've been to Palo.
Okay,
North of there.
All right.
And just to be frank with you, it upset my stomach. I mean,
Besides.
there's gravel paths in there that are not gonna go back to normal farming, I don't care what you do. There's gravel in there, it's like a railroad bed, it's gonna be driven on a lot over the next 20 years, them checking and it's on such good productive land. That's, I would say 2 to 5% slope at the max. And I just, as a farmer, I can't see it.
Mhm.
It just doesn't make any sense. And my other concern, Paul,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Is these these subsidies. I mean, it's good to talk, yeah, it's gonna be 20 years, and then your ground might be better after 20 years when they take it out of there. Who's gonna be around left to take them out of there, number one? Cause developers sell to another developer, to another developer.
That's where typically what a lot of counties have done is they require bonding by the company for decommission. So I definitely, if you don't have that in there, definitely.
We do.
We've done that.
Okay, alright, so require bonding, but as far as your gravel pathways, I mean, the solar fields we have in Howard County and Winnebago County, and right across the border in Minnesota, cause our REC is multiple counties.
Right.
But those are, there aren't gravel, it's grass, it's cool grasses, so.
So they can't get around in there in the mud, they gotta wait till it dries out otherwise.
Yeah, and again, I totally understand the concerns with compaction. We have the same thing with concerns with wind turbines in Howard County, and the fortunate thing is most of the developers in Howard County have been very good about holding off construction for drier weather, because, you know, those cranes can do a lot of compaction. But that being said, we have a lot of happy farmers in Howard County.
I commend you for doing the bus thing and the opposed and the pro and the against, and trying to come up with a solution.
Yeah, I just think it's a shame anymore, everybody's all or none, I mean, both sides, and I think people need to talk to each other and listen, and I get you, I mean, I grew up on a farm, I know the farming issues, and the same thing in Howard County when I talk to farmers. I understand the concerns about, you know, impacting farmers, especially tenant farmers. You know, I know the big concern is, you know, you have absentee landowners that are getting paid, you know, $1,000 an acre. How do I, as a beginning farmer, compete paying $300 an acre? So I understand those concerns, but I also think that we can come up with solutions. And I know that Howard County with wind, again, I go back to wind in Howard County because we're more wind, but like other counties are more solar. But, you know, the county's done a good job of working with the developers, and again, not all developers are good developers, but I don't want you, I guess I don't want you to throw the baby out with the bathwater, because there are a lot of benefits to that, to renewable energy.
Another one of my concerns, and I'm not trying to beat you up.
No, you feel free.
If we have a different philosophy at the national level as far as subsidies go, this thing, they're not self-sustainable, building those towers, the wind towers or the big solar farms. If the federal government pulls out subsidies, then what happens?
Wind actually is one of your cheapest.
I would disagree.
Well, I can pull studies that would say the other thing, so I mean, a lot of other industries get subsidized, so.
Right, even agriculture.
Yeah. No.
So, okay, Howard County,
Yes.
you say you only have 3 small, you're mostly wind.
Yeah,
So
we have 147 wind turbines in the county.
So you have the 3 small, why don't you have an industrial solar?
I don't know, though, I'll take that back. We did have plans for a big solar farm north of Riceville. It was gonna be called like Big Dave or something like that. Big Dave Solar. But the problem, that fell through because they were having difficulty with transmission of electricity. Because we are generating so much wind power in the western part of the county that the transmission, because you have to get like a certificate to generate from the Iowa Utility Board and working with other people, and they weren't able to. So that fell through because just practicality wise, they weren't able to transmit electricity. Where with your community solar, that's fed right into the grid. So.
And then, does Howard have a solar ordinance? Do you have?
We do not. We do not. Howard County is unusual. We're kind of the Wild West yet. I personally want to get something, but Howard County is not zoned rural. And when I talk to the supervisors, they're very much about, they're like, oh, we don't feel like we need to tell people what to do with their property, and You know, the one supervisor, Pat's like, I check in with farmers, make sure everything's okay, so far, it's been okay. It may not be okay someday, but yeah, so, we're in an unusual situation there with zoning.
I'm familiar with Mitchell County, St. Ansgar, right?
Okay, yep,
Are you west of there then, or are you?
We're east.
Howard
We're
is east
east,
of there?
yep.
Okay.
Yeah, Mitchell actually has a hydroelectric power too, by the way.
Right,
If you knew that,
right.
yeah, the Mitchell Dam there, that's pretty interesting.
So how long have you had wind? How many years has wind energy been?
The first wind farm in Howard County was in 2008. So we've had it for 17 years. I know people are concerned about damage. We had a tornado come through Howard County. We had 3 turbines that were, 2 were about totally destroyed. 1 was partially destroyed. And Saratoga Wind had those repaired that year. We also had a wind turbine a few years ago get basically burnt up, got struck by lightning. But again, our wind developers have been very good. The farmers we talked to, like one of the farmers, his nickname's Grub. He's got 5 turbines on his farms. He said he's got Saratoga Wind on a speed dial cell phone. If there's a problem, he takes care of it.
See, we've just seen experiences over in Mechanicsville, it was in the Cedar Rapids Gazette in the last year or so. 2 turbines that have been struck by lightning, if I'm not mistaken. And the developer has gone out there and tried to blow them up. And then they've taken off 8 inches of topsoil and so many acres to try to remove all the fibrous material that's in those, what is it? Steve?
Fiberglass.
Fiberglass, and, I mean, how do you know you're working with a good developer? You know?
I honestly can't answer that, to be
That's what makes
truthful.
me a little leery.
Yeah.
Are the ones that were built up there, are they still under the same ownership?
Saratoga Wind is now got bought out by Dairyland Power.
Okay, that's my concern.
Yep. But it's still the same people on the ground. They have an office. It's not even a town anymore. It's called Saratoga Wind. Used to be a town, but anyway, their office is right there in Saratoga.
I've been through Saratoga.
Oh, have you?
Yeah,
You didn't blink,
not
did
much
you?
there.
No, there used to be a good diner there.
Yeah.
But it's closed. But
So you don't have a, so do you have a wind ordinance or none of those at all?
no, we're not zoned. So Howard County has no zoning. So I'm in an unusual position where I work with counties on zoning, but my
See, we're-
home county doesn't.
We're right next to Benton County, they lie right east of us, and I don't think they have zoning ordinances either, they just have a land use policy 70 CSR or higher is strictly agricultural use, that's period. And that's how they got around a lot of getting away from any kind of
Yep.
future development on anything over 70
Yeah.
CSR. I'm not ignoring you, Karen, but
I
we
know
did
you're
comment.
not. You just haven't run out of questions for him yet. When you run out, I'll have my 2 questions ready.
Go ahead.
Oh, 2 things you said Wild West, but so does that mean sparsely populated and land that's not real high quality for all kinds of agriculture, or what does that mean?
No, that was me being a little flippant in my wording. I mean,
We don't do flip it, we do really serious
No,
stuff here.
actually, typically, Howard County has very good soils. The biggest problem with farming in Howard County is you have to have adequate drainage,
Too flat, isn't it?
especially in the western part.
Don't you have a lot of rocks?
That's in the northeast corner. See, our county is on the edge of what's called the Paleozoic Plateau
Yeah.
and the island surface. So basically, our northeast third is rugged, limestone bluffs, upper Iowa canoeing is beautiful. And then you go the 2/3 to the southwest, that's the island surface, which is here too. And it's flat, but real heavy soils. But if you tile them, they're very productive. In fact, I'm always surprised because they're just as productive as my dad's farm in Grundy County. And, used to be, you think Howard County, it's not very good soil, but.
What about your population, your rural population base?
We are a small county, we are 10,000 people, but we're also geographically smaller than Tama.
Yeah.
I don't know I'm guessing you guys are probably what, a third bigger than us, maybe.
How many
Yeah, I was
people-
thinking geographically though, cause I mean, you guys are a bigger area.
How many do we have here?
We're like the 19th.
Just under 17.
And just one other thing, if I can add, getting back to Riceville, cause that school district has a lot of wind turbines in it between western Howard County and eastern Mitchell. And it was in my article there too, getting back to the benefits. Because the valuations of property are so high in that school district because of the wind turbines, they have the third lowest tax levy of any school district in Iowa. So, and then also tied in it, just to counteract the argument that people run away from renewables, Riceville is also one of the few, I think, I'd take that back. Riceville is, I think, maybe the only rural school district that actually had increased enrollment last year. So their school district is growing, but anyway.
Well, I just like to say that as a farmer, I don't believe that even if you have grass under this thing for 30 years, that by the time you go in there with the trucks and everything to remove all of the solar panels and all the steel and the wires and drive over this with those trucks, that you're gonna be able to farm that for at least 5 years, because I've had trucks go through my farm, they go through these high lines, when they go down, they have to be fixed, and I can show you tracks in my field that stay 10 years after the truck is done. So to bring it back is almost impossible in my estimation as a long-term farmer. It just cannot be done. As far as putting livestock under them, you have set the height at 15 foot. That means it's too close to the ground to put sheep under them. Unless you raise the height, you can't put sheep under yours. Not unless you want them higher. I don't care how you do it, but if you want livestock, they gotta be higher than 15 foot. So I guess the other thing is, I don't believe that these companies are gonna be here. They're gonna be sold and sold and sold. And by the time this thing is done, nobody is gonna pick it up. And someplace along the line, there's gonna be somebody's son or daughter that's gonna say, I got this field, 160 acres that's full of these iron and junk. Thanks, Grandpa, for doing this to me, because now I can't get rid of it and there's no money to take it down. And that's my biggest fear, is that down the road, our grandkids or great grandkids, you know, look at this and say, what the heck did we do to ruin the best land we had in the world?
Paul, you wanted to
Well, I was just gonna say, they are grazing sheep currently, this isn't theoretical, and my energy is grazing sheep on those community solar.
Are they, how high are they? The panels, what's the minimum height?
The bottom of the panel,
Yeah.
is probably 4 foot.
And how tall are the top? What's your maximum?
I don't know.
Well, see, they live
Because
at
that's part of the
15
limit.
foot.
Oh, I
At
see what you're
15
saying.
foot, there's not room for sheep. Now, if they wanna go 20 foot, there won't be room for sheep.
Oh, okay,
That's their decision.
okay.
But in the past, they said 15 foot was the top. So that means this panel is going to be way down here, and there's no room for livestock. Now, maybe you got them to build them taller, that's
That's why
fine.
I'd love to take people out to these
But
things.
that's community solar too. You're talking about your community solar that can have sheep.
Yeah,
Yes, so
That's,
that's,
I'm just
that's,
saying this project,
that's
yes.
probably different than these big industrial companies.
yeah, I would say too, commercial
That's
is
something-
totally
that's something I
different
think.
than even a small community that would have 10 or 15 acres, because, you know, and even if we write all these regulations, and Benton County has the one you can't develop over 70 CSR, but if a person comes to the supervisors and says, I want my son to build a house, and they have a 20-acre plot, they override the rules and let him build the house on it. So the supervisors could override the rule and let the electric company put in 10 acres. Now, if they want to, they probably could override the utility, but I don't think they can if you wrote it right. But they would be able to put a small one in if they wanted to do it that bad and override their regulations. It's kind of up to the supervisors. They have a lot more power than you think.
But with the variance though, wouldn't it be up to the supervisors though?
Variances go through the Board of Adjustment.
But I'm saying if it's not actually written down, it's kind of up to the whim of who's there on the board.
Yeah, you would wanna have an ordinance for community because you'd
Yeah,
have
I
to.
think
There'd
that's
be
a
too
whole
much
separate
stuff.
topic.
And
And when they're
I'm
talking
sorry,
about-
I didn't mean to get in
When you're talking about a brownfield
nitty gritty
site,
here, I just,
you know, there's an old industrial site, I bought into the one in Traer, you know, and, it's in town and in Traer municipal utilities and so on. And using an old industrial site, things like that, and in town, that might have been a 70 CSR. But that's something I think we need to address completely separately from our general ordinance.
But the community ones are local ownership.
Right,
isn't it?
and
Right.
that's
I mean,
something-
So the money stays in the area.
And you would have everybody buy into it. You know,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be
I think that's-
anything where.
I think that's
some
the
buildings
goal.
would
Yeah,
be
that would be a different,
Different animal.
ordinance.
Yes, right, I think that needs to be addressed separately from what we're doing here.
Yeah.
I've got a
But
couple.
I see this House File 404 and.
That addresses community solar?
Yes, the
Yes,
forest
that's
one.
right,
yeah.
And I couldn't see where, I think February 13th was there something like that was the last time I didn't.
And they're talking about brownfield site, abandoned, idle, or underutilized industrial or commercial facility for expansion or development are complicated by just all this junk and crap and everything else, you know, and this is, and here you got the local people buying in and doing something like that isn't some big investment coming in from the outside, but
Got some questions.
I think that's,
They're gonna take care of it.
yeah, that, I think,
Laura.
I know it's not specifically listed on the agenda, but I just have a couple follow-up comments from his. It had been mentioned in previous meetings, as far as the transportation and business. I still believe what could possibly come in during the creation of and the implementation of these, far undercuts what local farm businesses would be bringing, as far as you've got your seed, you've got, Pioneer Corteva, you've got all the people catering to the farmers that are doing that versus, you know, a one-time build and occasional maintenance of these solar farms. And then also he made a kind of concerning topic or comment that I might have misunderstood, but it sounded like they're moving topsoil out and then bringing it back in, and that's,
they do,
I-
when they grade, cause with the large, and again, this is large industrial fields, they like to be flat, so if the ground's rolling, they'll do that.
so then if we have any part of that, I would make sure that we do not allow any topsoil to leave the county, because I've seen, I've seen some, what do you call it? I don't know.
Situation.
Or testimonials from certain people that their topsoil was removed and then the company brought in somebody else's topsoil back. So it wasn't the same topsoil they had. It could have been inferior, it could have been better, but it was probably, you know, it definitely was not their topsoil. So if you're going to allow anyone to remove topsoil, I would make sure you include a caveat in your ordinance that says it is not allowed to leave the property, or it must be returned to the exact same farm it came from. Because I mean, and plus removing it and bringing it back does disrupt the nutritional or nutrient value of that soil, doesn't it?
Structure.
Destroy the long-term productivity of the ground.
And then any compaction at all still affects it as well. So I would, is a very concerning comment, at least that I heard. But as far as the transportation business goes, there's so much ingrained in the farmer's business in the county that if you're taking that out of production, you're really cutting into all this other supporting business in the county. It's just my opinion. And then I do think once you get your utility solar ordinance in place, it would be a fairly quick offshoot to create a community solar ordinance. And once you get, you know, you've got your basics done for utility, so you're just scaling it down and adding specifics that would help for community solar. So I think that would be a good separate ordinance to have, but it would hopefully go fairly quick after you finish the large utility one.
Thank you. Karen, you want to
Yeah.
comment yet?
I am so grateful that Paul came tonight, such a long drive too, but your dad's, farm is very comparable to what we're talking about here with our Northern Tama County soils and farms and lay of the land and practice and everything. So does your dad have turbine or solar on his land?
He doesn't, there's no wind farm in his area in Grenady County. So, he hasn't been approached yet, I honestly have no idea what he would do. But the thing I also like about renewables, it's no eminent domain. If you don't actually want it on your property, you can say no. So, I guess I'm a big proponent of landowner rights, and I
Right.
know there's rights of people that live next door, but also the great thing with my dad, he can say no. And he doesn't have anything right now, I don't know if he ever would even consider it, but,
Thank you for your honesty, Paul, we appreciate it very much.
I've got just a couple of questions, Paul, on that. I noticed, I didn't see anything here quick as I was leafing through on any, income to the county on solar issues. I didn't see that.
yeah, I
For
don't,
your wind.
I worked with the Center for Rural Affairs on the case study for wind, we were focused just on wind.
Okay, you don't know what the solar.
I
we're bringing
can
into
give
the
you so
county.
much data on wind, you want wind? Like I said, Howard County, we get $2.5 million a year in tax revenue just from the turbines. I think they're total value of wind turbines is $115 million.
Yeah, I see
And
that.
I tell people, that'd be like $115 million mansions in your school district.
So
They're
you
paying
collect
at a corporate rate.
the 2.7 million a year comes into the county then.
Yes, and our county uses a finance instrument called TIP. It's tax increment financing.
We're well aware of that, it hasn't worked out well in this county.
Okay. We've had a lot of success in Howard County because, again, normally the county is only able to replace 1 or 2 bridges a year. And since then, we've actually, on top of 1 or 2 bridges a year, we've replaced 30 additional bridges. We've paved 20 additional miles of road, partially paid for 6 motor graders, a dump truck. In fact, the county now we own our own equipment for driving the pilings in to construct the bridges. And that equipment, Howard County now rents out to other counties to do small. So, I mean, like I said, the tax revenue aspect of it is huge. And again, that's why Driceville School District has such a low tax levy for their school, is because of the valuations of the wind turbines.
We gotta move on.
Yep.
We're,
Thank you, Paul.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
And like I said, if you do wanna consider getting a task force or group to actually go tour, see projects, we'd be more than happy to arrange that.
A few of us have driven around, we've been down to Wapello and Utica County and
Okay, good.
Lynn County and.
Good, I guess I was thinking of more than just the planning and zoning commission, get a working group of citizens that, but anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to reviewing our permitting and, review, where are we at here? Let me get lost. Permitting and review procedures. Should we take a look at Des Moines and Madison, or have we been looking at them since our last meeting? Everyone? Find it.
Jamie one.
It's on page 14, is that the one you're referring to? On the road use.
No, we're on permitting and review procedure, page 10 on Des Moines.
Oh, yeah.
Do we need to let him know when he was gone, what we had said about, before we go on about, road use agreement, I'm not gonna have it.
Yeah.
We were talking about something. Our road use agreement, if there needs to be repairs, who's responsible, who can enforce that? So we have a note here that said something about the county engineer needs to be able to legally enforce, and how to word this for enforcement, something, we said something like that.
The county attorney.
Yeah.
Right.
So I don't know where that needs to come from.
If they're damaged, who would have the authority to do it?
How we enforce them,
About make sure that you get the, get the funds.
That's one of our concerns.
Okay.
Who puts the teeth into the bite? If
this, just so I can be clear, we have nothing like this in our ordinance right now, so this would have,
Permitting and review.
yeah,
It kind of steps through it as it, in ours, like it'll say it's gotta be this CSR, and it'll have to be this, it has to be this, and it doesn't just have a process where they go, you know, fill out these forms and have this, what the application is supposed to do. And another thing that both Madison and Des Moines have is the public hearings and how they address that. The fee structure for.
Okay.
And that some of those, and so they don't really address like what the CSR is or what the setbacks are, something in their permitting review procedure, but they have to show all that stuff is included in there. And, you know, there's, one of the things we discussed before was the, easement, wouldn't be,
Do with finding an easement within so many days, or
well, this is, like they can't,
Systematic, I mean, he tells you exactly what to do.
must
Do
go
this,
get
and
it.
then
we're trying to look at Des Moines.
Des Moines, yeah, I like Des Moines, I think that.
We've used a lot of the Des Moines ordinance, I mean.
We have,
But we, and that we, just to get the wording, if we did, went with Des Moines and then, you know, we went to Madison and some of the other things that aren't in
And
there.
fine tune it, yeah.
Right, that we would, they aren't, the thing makes it complicated is, like, when I go through it, they aren't in the same order necessarily on how they address everything, from county to county and.
what does Des Moines not have that Howard, or the Madison does have?
Well, there's, like, one of the things they can include is an unredacted health and safety manual for the make model type of solar panel. Just things like that, description of public roads.
Page 5H, you were talking about.
They're pretty good on, some of the dimensions we may wanna adjust, like the radiuses and.
On Des Moines or on?
On Des Moines, if that's what we're going to, you know, with our setbacks and. Public hearing. Let's see.
Gotta notify all the owners and occupants within a mile of the solar array.
We need to walk through this kind of piece by piece.
Should we? The Des Moines one?
I think Des Moines would be.
Should we start out under B there? Well, A, administrator.
Yeah.
Do we have a land use administrator? That would be you, Bob? Zoning
I
administrator?
guess it would go to zoning administrator, yeah. Stuff would just have to be reworded.
Expand your title a little bit.
To implement and administer the provisions of this ordinance, referred to as the administrator. Now here it says Des Moines County Engineer shall assist, okay,
Yeah.
assist in that. let's go through that, let's go to B, citing permits and required documents, let's read through that together quietly ourselves and see if we wanna make some changes.
B under one C,
Mhm.
the height and size dimensions of the solar arrays or the structures. We'll need to include in there that need to be within the covenants of the Tama County land use.
Solar ordinance.
Solar ordinance, yes.
Say that then need to be
In compliance with the, Tama County.
Under C, right,
Yeah.
for sure.
And that may apply to several of these, though, really, I mean, it's the height, length, and time frame. They're all, we need to make sure, and maybe it's just something we put at the end, that, this.
Yeah.
This.
Instead of
site
attaching
plan-
it to every
Yeah.
thumbnail, I think you just put
Yeah.
something at either the beginning or the end, whatever.
Yeah, exactly, I think that's, you just say that, hey, you need to meet all, of the present Tama County solar.
Yeah.
Zoning ordinances.
Get that, Carol?
this is from you, right?
Pardon?
This is from you, right? You sent,
Yeah.
you have this on your computer at home?
Yes.
I'm gonna need I need you to email me a copy of this so I can turn it into a doc and kind of execute. I don't wanna have to type all this up.
Right. Right.
Why not?
We all love jobs here. Are we ready to move on to 2 or not yet?
Yeah.
I
2.
think that 2's fine. Two B, I don't know, that's, what do you want for numbers there? This getting pretty specific.
It is. That's in the diagrams or illustration before they ever constructed anything, right?
This would be,
Or the site plan. What would be more workable, do you think?
Well, again, we want it to be according to the solar ordinances of Tama County. And it must meet all requirements that are presently laid out in the ordinance within Tama County. Cause I don't know, radius of 300 feet surrounding each cluster of solar arrays, I don't know what that's.
yeah, I would think it would be,
Don't mean much to me, I don't.
it would have to be at least outside what the setbacks were.
Yeah, exactly, I mean, it's the setbacks mean more to me than what this does.
We delete B and
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, just get rid of B. so they don't make
Maybe
us all
C
hell
also, I
on
don't know,
this.
C's got all, is all the same.
Madison County is the development plan, project contain aerial photographs of the entire project area showing approximate locations, driver roads, feeder lines.
I thought I saw that last one too.
Application under C. Under B, C.
page 4, of
On page 4.
All the scale drawings and everything are are very helpful for everything. I mean, when they tell all about the blueprints, you know exactly what they're doing, you know exactly where everything's going.
I think
That way the Board of Adjustment and anybody, and you guys too, can look at it. And then if they deviate from that,
And you
it's
know,
real easy to prove that, hey, you deviated from this plan. So all of that stuff is very, very helpful, because we use that a lot with the cell towers and everything.
So it does talk about that aerial photography under that, where those measurements.
Mm-hmm.
Really.
What do we wanna do with two C?
Well, this, with the site, we have the site plan in the morning, and the application under B, there's the development plan, the details of the project, the number, the height, generating capacity, all that's manufacturer's information, underground overhead lines. It's kinda like what you said, the detailed documentation of the legal control of private property, public roads.
Those plans have absolutely everything in there, and it makes it real easy then to.
That,
So if we're moving on,
that whole section under the Madison, I think, is of application.
you like it, what you're saying?
And it really,
you said that's Madison,
Yeah.
yeah, which would be starting on page 4B under the application. It gives it kind of a detail like what Bob was.
So are you thinking of adding that from Madison into ours? Or-
Well, it would be-
Or just parts of it?
Well, this is as a site plan, and it's, in Des Moines, where it talks about what the site plan is, that well, now that, I drop down to number 3, it does have a description of the solar arrays.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, they don't, I like the Madison where they have what the manufacturer, the details, a little more. And,
Like D, for Madison? Project detail. E,
right. And then like the H,
H. Unredacted, unredacted health and safety instruction manual. I had J circled for some reason.
yeah, J, do we cover that?
Thought we did, maybe not.
Maybe in the road use agreement, we did not. J, on Madison.
I believe.
Right, and there, we have like what the road use agreement is, but then when, this is like in the application process, they need
Yes,
to,
yeah.
need to show this
Yeah.
is.
Still have it in.
Yeah, no, that's, you're right.
Like the decommissioning plan, they need to
Mm-hmm.
give that, present their decommissioning plan, and then we would ensure that it meets our requirements. In the application process, all that stuff has to be put up.
So we kinda lost our way, we were at two A.
we're at 3 and 4 on the Des Moines County plan, I think look really good. Under 2.
Under two,
Yeah, well,
3 and 4,
under 2, then you go to 3 and 4, and I think those look very good,
do we wanna throw out two B then?
yeah.
Yeah, I think we got rid of that.
What about two C?
on the
Well-
diagrams and illustrations, it's not really, you know, it's,
Yeah, when it talks about aerial photography, it really is just talking about, I think it's still talking about those measurements up there.
I don't think there's probably a C in there.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we have development plan, the way they list it under Madison County.
Take it
Okay.
back.
Take two B out, leave C.
Let me see.
So leave C,
Leave
okay,
C.
Leave C in the Des Moines, sorry, Cheryl.
that's okay. Too many
We're
letters.
thinking two,
Two B out of Des Moines.
are we gonna put
Do you wanna put in
C?
C from Madison?
Maps.
Yeah. The application plan.
Where do you want to add C into, just like in that same two where it says a site plan, put
Yeah,
that
that kind of
C in there?
Under the, in the
That would
site plan
replace-
area.
So, okay, so,
There you go.
So you're taking C from on page 4 under application,
Yeah,
this
that's-
one. Put that into C or B.
Bob was saying, and it kinda needs to be. It needs to be dimensioned.
Yeah, very well detailed, you know,
Detailed.
blueprints and
Yes.
the equipment and everything. Listed what the equipment is and the pictures of the equipment,
Oh, yeah.
everything that has to do with it, all of the dimensions,
Total blueprint.
yeah, everything about the equipment, you know, what brand it is, where it's made, you know, what it does.
Dimensions and,
Yeah, absolutely everything.
you just keep throwing those letters at me.
So we're gonna eliminate two B in Des
Yeah,
Moines.
got that.
And replace it with C
C from Madison.
from Madison, right?
Yep, is there anything else from Madison that we wanted to pull in?
Let's keep going on.
Okay, well, E, under, we had this, the C out of that. Development plan, and under E, that's where it is, standard, the manufacturer's specifications, recommended installation, benefit of new solar panels. It should, yeah, I think, how did you see that, it should have, like, what it is, the
Yeah, everything, manufacturer, all of the details, all the
Service manual.
schematics and everything on it. Everything about the equipment.
Which is D and E, isn't it? Pretty much, of Madison.
Yeah, but I think we need to spell it out a little more, to cover it with Bob.
All of the specs and everything, just like.
That's, in industry, that's what we do now, we get something, you have a CAD program that has the detail of every little thing in it.
but if you look at 3 on Des Moines, isn't that's kind of what it's got, their description of the substation, functional design, characteristics, appearance, dimensions, it's got everything there. And then photographs, elevation drawings, a visual depiction of the proposed solar array in any substation in any other.
Any of that
That's already-
equipment, there's
Yeah,
pictures and everything
yeah,
of it.
that's what's all listed under 3. We're just kinda,
Maybe
we're getting a little ahead of
We need to-
ourselves, yeah, we're trying to put it in, and it's
already there.
Yeah. Well, okay, except it doesn't fit like the manufacturers, you know, with the manufacturers and the
Specs, yeah.
specifications and instruction manuals, things that go along with that, but.
That would be E, right? In Madison.
And it will have like the tolerances and everything too for weather and all that.
So how do we mesh this together, folks?
So, yeah. I keep the rest of 2 and all 3. And you
I
guys,
think when we get it all done, we'll still go through and.
and have to go through, yeah, we'll have to go
We'll have
through, check,
to have a.
So it isn't redundant or whatever, repeating itself all the
so
time.
it makes sense, hopefully.
So, do you want E from Madison to go in with this, just so it's there, so you can look at it later?
Kinda what you're saying, aren't you, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Where should we put it?
I just figured I'd add it to, over here to 3 where we have some of that
Yeah.
stuff already.
Alright.
I'll just add in, I'll make that.
Perfect, yeah.
When you guys get all your parts in, would you be willing to tell us what they all are besides letters from other ordinances?
No, you can
It's a little hard to follow right now.
I'll send you an email.
You gotta be on the board.
Yeah.
Privileged information.
Probably find another copy of this.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
So I'm gonna need Madison's too, Wade.
Oh, you don't have one?
No, I mean, I need it, I
Oh,
need the
okay,
computer,
your
I need you
email,
to email
yeah.
it so that I can
Right.
manipulate it.
You're trying to make it easy for us, huh? It's
Yeah.
just making it easy for us.
That won't be easy.
That's for sure. There's a lot of times I said, oh, this has saved me a lot.
Okay, we down to 4 then?
Mm-hmm.
Leave some maintenance plan.
I like that. I like it's, the way it's written, it seems like it's pretty descriptive.
Control weeds, pests and other potential hazards, that was a concern earlier tonight.
It's like Al's comment, the noxious weeds.
Noxious weed,
Yeah.
we put that in there instead of
Yeah.
just weed, put noxious
Yeah.
weed.
What's
I
that?
like that too. I think that needs to be.
Which one is that?
Four
Okay.
What
B on, we want page 11.
Oh, E?
4B.
Oh, right here, B,
The
okay.
noxious
controls
as well.
weeds, just, yeah,
Add
control
noxious.
weeds. And maybe especially a noxious weed.
Alright, that's it.
And the rest of it looks good.
Looking at Madison on H5, the unredacted health and safety instruction manual, is that addressed anywhere in Des Moines? Mostly about health and safety.
I don't think so.
I don't know, maybe we haven't gotten there
We
yet.
haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah,
No, I
that's,
don't think there is though. Cause the rest of it is county review, public hearing, validity of permits and fee structure.
Maybe we need to throw something like that in there. You with me, Wade, on H for Madison? I had it circled. Should we also put that in there,
Yes.
Where do you want that at?
probably back where you just put in the other one, the E,
Yeah.
put H in there as well,
Wherever that landed.
under 3, I think. it
Under
was.
3,
Yeah.
Yep, you're right.
H.
okay.
Is there something in Des Moines that corresponds to what I is? That they provide documentation that they have, that all the landowners and everybody, that they got all the signatures and everything they need, and that eminent domain will not be,
Allowed.
yeah, and I'm, you look through Tama County through our ordinance, and it says a solar, this is in, number 3 of page 6. Solar access regularly board shall not proceed to accept any application brought to the board by an earnest dominant owner who has failed to voluntarily negotiate solar access easement and lease with the owner of the property who does not desire to enter into such a voluntary agreement. To the extent Iowa Code 564A.141H, 5.64A.42, and section 5.64A.5 apply and state that the owner's property may be educated by the solar access board involuntarily decree a dominant easement by taking the desires and wishes of the property owner, even though compensation may be ordered by the subservient owner of the solar access regulatory board, which is, shall not entertain and is hereby forbidden to exercise such power of dubious constitutionality. And if you go to the Iowa 5.64.4, and this is a statement that the applicant has attempted to voluntarily negotiate a solar easement with the owner and has been unsuccessful with it. So, we, you know, that in ours, we're actually saying that, except that it keeps referencing the Iowa code. Yeah, and it basically says you can't do, well, we need to just put it in simple language. Well, that's the way, Audubon County did it, is that they worded that as statement to, let's see where it's on. Yeah. But anyway, that's what they're saying, is that they can't
Use eminent domain.
you use eminent domain, that they, and so the I here, document, we kinda need to, I think, include something like that they need to show that they have all the people signed up, and then they aren't gonna need, you know, they've shown the whole project, and that everything that
Everything's
that
in
project is,
In
we've got
order.
signatures of landowners that.
Des Moines, what they have, it says, formal documentation of any agreement signed between the developer and participating property owners, such as leases and waivers for the minimum distance requirements in Article 3, Section 8 of this ordinance. That's all it
Where you
says.
at, Carol?
Number 5.
Page 12, number 5. That's the only thing I can find that talks about.
Right, well, that, and where 5 is, I think we need to,
Expand that a little bit.
yeah, like I here, and specifically say that,
Maybe we cross out 5 and replace it with I, because they're referencing Article 3, Section 8 of their ordinance that we don't have.
Right.
Alright, so we'll take out that and we'll put in I from
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
I think we need to
Still,
expand that a little bit, that they need to show 100% of the project is by voluntary.
how do we word that? Or do we
Carol?
say, do we go with the other approach, eminent domain cannot be used, or you just wanna say 100% all?
Well, if we can, well.
You want this with I, what we're putting in, this is gonna go with I, okay.
Right.
Once we figure it out.
Yeah,
Right.
Use of eminent domain is forbidden.
Right, well, that they show that they have, all property owners' signatures are bought in.
They have agreements with all
That
property
encompass the
owners
entire
voluntarily,
And that eminent domain is not,
enrolled in the program.
yeah, and that will not be, wouldn't be needed to attempt for, well, we know what we mean, we just figure out how.
All property owners have been notified? Something like
Well,
that.
that they
So-
signed off, they've got to.
Signed off.
They need to make sure that they're legally, or it's been done
All property owners
to the county's satisfaction.
Legally signed off.
need to legally sign off. I don't know how to say that.
We need to, we need a little, wordsmithing on that.
Put it in the chat GPT.
Yeah, there you go, that's,
Alright, so basically, all property owners need to legally sign off voluntarily, something like that.
yes.
And then, eminent domain as well, or do you just have something else added to this? So all property owners need to legally sign off voluntarily to show, I think you said something else.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what it was.
You're just gonna eliminate 5.
Yeah.
I'm just taking out
Yeah,
5. What did you, so Wade, and pick your brain again, you were saying we need to do this so so the developer can show that all that 100% of the property owners have voluntarily.
Yeah, we have, he's showing a map, and he's showing the entire project, and he needs to show that he's got signatures from everybody,
so developer needs to, okay.
Developer needs to document leases,
Needs to document.
voluntarily sign.
Well, when I get that in there, when I send you guys a copy of this, you can look those places over and see if you like the wording or not. We can change it.
Do we put in there no time limit as to may be allowed? We should, shouldn't we?
I think that'd be.
What's that, Doug?
At no time will eminent domain be permitted.
So the same here.
No use of eminent domain as law.
There you go.
That's, where we say that, it's kind of, that's kind of like, when we'll put that in a different part, that would.
Think we should?
Yeah, it's kind of like what we have, we say what the setbacks are, and we say this, and this is the application process. And they just need to, and we've set up here that they aren't gonna use eminent domain, and they just need to show here that they have all the signatures and didn't require it in the application process.
That needs to be a part of the site plan as they develop it.
Yeah, there you go.
Submit it and ask for their permit,
So
initial permit.
So you said we don't need that statement on eminent domain, do you not?
It will be, but it'll be in a, it'll be.
Somewhere.
So you don't want it at that part, at that
Yeah,
point, okay.
No,
It'll be
yeah,
kind of
he's
out
right.
like where the setbacks and the heights and some of these other,
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna make a note on here for that then.
I had that thing out there. How they disappear when I. It was a dare count, it was about 2 pages long, it had it spelled out real well. Very well.
So stay on track, that was 5, right? We
Correct.
replaced, so should we go on with 6, 7, and 8?
6, 7, and 8 look good.
They look good.
Agreed.
About 9 then.
I don't see any problems with that.
Do we wanna encourage local subcontractors? I suppose they're gonna have whoever they want.
Yeah.
They wouldn't do anything.
They probably just bid it out and go from there.
Yeah.
On 10, we'll need to, in another place, we'll need to spell that out a little more too, what we're going to require for stormwater management. And we may reference, a lot of places have regulations, and we may wanna reference some of those regulations. What they would need to show here is just that their plan meets those regulations, so that, we may wanna word that a little differently.
So just leave it in for now and then we'll have to reword it later?
Yeah, put
Okay.
somewhere around 10 or just kind of notate 10.
The road use agreement outlining, well, I guess, I don't know.
We just get rid of that as outlined in Article 5 of this ordinance.
Yeah,
Well,
And then leave the rest of it in.
what did we use?
yeah, but is Article 5 in here? Is that,
Well, article, did we use the one for the
yeah, I don't know.
road use?
We,
We did.
We did.
I think we did.
I think we did.
Well, all these things are gonna have to be numbered differently and everything.
Yeah.
And we start out in Tama County, it's A, B, C, and then 1, 2, 3, and.
Somebody knows how to do that, right?
Yeah, Article
Somebody
5,
knows how to
yes.
do all the rewrite.
Article 5 is
Computer
one we use, so we're okay.
Yeah, but
Okay,
it
okay.
reference that it does have to meet the road use agreement, and that it has to meet they have to show that they meet the decommissioning plan.
Okay, so Doug, going back to you, you said you had on Madison's, you had J circled. I don't know if that has to do with this road use agreement or if that's anything.
I think
different.
it's covered, let me look it through it again.
That should be covered, I believe.
should have the color of the road use agreement.
I think so.
So we don't
I
need to add,
agree.
so we don't need to add.
Okay.
Thank you for asking.
Yep.
L, do we have anything like that in? That's just something that'd be good to have in there. L from Madison County.
FAA and FCC.
Yeah, they just need to show that they comply with that.
L, right?
You want Ellen?
Where do we put that?
Well, okay, so on Des Moines, they do have something about the FAA.
Okay.
It's on page 12, number 8, letter B.
Okay. Yeah, there you go.
So is that good enough?
Yeah, that's
Basically
they
talking there.
include all applicable permits.
Okay, so, but they don't mention the FCC. They just
No,
have
they
the
put it,
FAA.
yeah, the FCC in there.
Okay,
That is something on the inverters, you can have some high frequencies and things coming off of those.
okay, so add FCC.
So we're back to, are we on page 13 yet?
Yes.
There 14 addresses, whether they're gonna look for local help or not.
Change that to Tama.
Tama County, yeah, under 14. Change them
There you go, get the local.
And we probably won't wanna advocate for Alvin County help with it.
This is good.
Which one?
C. You would want professional engineers and people going through and evaluating all this.
Third party, you mean, right?
Right.
Yeah,
This
C
is,
three is the main one, though, make sure that they're paying for all the
right.
consultants and everything else.
Right.
It's their responsibility.
But we select the consultants.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that earlier, that on all those plans and everything, then there's engineer stamps on all that. So that's all required too.
So we're good with C, 1, 2, 3, right?
Yep.
Now we're on to D, 13.
It doesn't look too bad.
I think that D looks pretty good.
Yes.
I think that public hearings and
Okay, done. On to E then. We want to give them 2 years.
Is 2 years enough? I don't,
That seems like
Too much.
plenty to me.
yeah.
What does anybody else think? Wait,
I'd leave it at 2, I think.
which one are we at?
E,
E,
do we need to give them 2 years after they've given us
That they have valid
for 2
permits.
years?
Cause it's got 1 and 2 in there, they can revoke the permit or give an extension too,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
thinking
was
that things
fine.
were going like a, 90 days to show that, they've got 90 days after the permit's issued to get started. And then, there has to be, they can get an extension base use within the year, you know, or depending, there too, they would have to get an extension, no matter, depending what delayed them, and they would have to pay for that.
What are you suggesting then for a code?
So do we need to put something in there about beginning construction within 90 days after it's any permitted?
Well, I don't think you wouldn't be able to even order the parts, you know, if you're putting up a big thing like that. you better
Well,
start letting
yeah,
that
see,
here.
that's part of it, where they would show that they're doing that, they've gotta be doing something, like that to be able to show, prove that they've got this investment involved and stuff.
Ball's
In that-
rolling.
in that 90 days, and, you know, that includes, I mean, they're doing site preparation and they're out there surveying and everything like that. So they may not start, you know, putting in a post or something, but they've gotta show that they're doing all of this.
Moving forward.
Moving forward, and then, you know, having to get the extensions as they need to, but they have to pay each time.
So we need to 2 years loan then?
I think that's right.
Yeah, if it's like 14 grand when they start, then when they do the extension, it's another 14 grand they have to do.
So it's a good incentive to keep moving on.
Right. So we move on to F.
That's something that we can continuously changing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems awful cheap to me, doesn't it? I mean,
Yeah, 10 years from now.
yeah,
There's gonna be much of it.
no.
Is there something else that could be referenced off? If you go to the, there's permits, on a website for cost, depending on the size of the project and things like that.
Yeah, that's all in in the fee schedule, and that's in the zoning ordinance, you know, that's already in there.
This is.
Probably, in this, you'd probably have to say something like that, that gets referred to in that or something, I'm not sure. Well, this is all part of the ordinance, so when it comes time for that, then it would be in that fee schedule, that's in the ordinance.
Yeah, I think we'll need to research that fee structure.
Yeah, I do too.
That's, yeah, I don't know.
Cause that on the Tama County one, I imagine that's one that's can change or can.
Well, it starts off, it's a minimum of $30, and then it's so much for the next after 10, and then so much for the next. You know, and then you get this fee where it's over, so when you're dealing with these bigger projects like the wind and solar, you're talking, you know, several thousands of dollars then.
We kinda need to.
Look at that again, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, the way the fee schedule's set up now, that's set up for everything, so that includes these items.
Okay.
So basically, couldn't you put in just as per Tama County schedule, fee
Yeah.
schedule?
Yeah. You could-
Because you're gonna vary yours.
Yeah, this will be part of the ordinance anyway, and then the fee schedule is already in there.
Okay.
So then, what do we need to take out? Do we just take that out and just say,
I just take out 1, 2, and 3 and then put
And just
for
put-
Tama County
Tama County schedule.
Permit.
schedule, yeah. Permit fee schedule.
And look and see if that is applicable, like, take a project and see if that looks good.
Yeah, that's what they've done for the wind and everything so far, it's just gone off of that one. Then, of course, that can always be revisited, you know, if you're gonna raise fees in the future or anything, but, you know, I'm sure somewhere down the line, you know.
Never go down.
So we've gone through that,
yeah?
accomplished that.
So now what I need to know is where I'm putting this on the Tama County ordinance, where this is specifically gonna go, what's coming out of ours, cause it sounds like ours has been scattered all over.
We'll just shove it ahead of the road use. We had the decommissioning and then we had the road use. and
So you
then
just
shove
want it
this-
ahead of the road use?
Shove it ahead of that.
Okay.
And then we're gonna have to go through and figure.
You're gonna have to, cause it talks here about like,
Yeah, make them in boxes so we can.
cause it
Probably
does
be
have like a
repeating
whole,
ourselves
like
if
it
you
breaks
do
it
that.
down in the Tama County one to weed control and everything else, but that's kind of addressed in
Right.
here, so.
Yeah,
Okay.
there'll be, some of the things out of Tama County will be adjusted.
So,
sign our updated land use plan tonight, right? We've gone through permitting and review.
Yeah, and you discussed the, House File 404 pretty much, or you just touch base with that.
That's the community solar,
That's a community solar, yep.
and you're not sure where that bill is at right now?
No, I looked that up tonight, and then, I didn't get a chance to call Dean. I didn't come in till just before the meeting, so. I'll check with him and find out where that's at now. When I looked it up, and I believe it said something about, like 13th of February or something was the last action. It was moving on. Dean had told me that was moving on along at the last time when I talked to him about it. So.
That looks like that'd be something totally separate from this anyway.
Yeah, yep, it was just, it had gotten brought up because they had asked about some possible projects in the county.
Yeah.
And so that's why we needed to bring it up right away and get discussing it, because we'll have to be.
Yeah, we'll have to move ahead with that pretty
And
quickly.
this is,
The land use policy.
okay,
Alright,
completely opposed to how this is written, so I'm not signing it.
that's okay.
Okay.
I expected that.
I just wanted to be sure.
If you look back on the one that was in '96, there was someone that didn't sign that one as well.
Out of county, you have a condemnation waiver. Issuance of a construction permit shall be conditioned on the permit holder's enforceable promise, supported by consideration of the issuance of the construction permit, that the permit holder shall never use or seek to use any domain to acquire any real property. So we'll have, that'll be up there, something like that in one of the areas up where we have height and setbacks and things like that. And it here it just says it's under one that's called miscellaneous. Right, and that, we have some things like legal fees.
I have a question for you, for what I missed last time, with all the stuff in here you talked about.
Oh, I couldn't find out what's in my question.
But when I asked you about it, you didn't know what was gonna go in here, did it? We still have something we just have to discuss later on?
We may.
Okay. 'Cause I don't,
I think I got, tonight I got them all in order.
no, I don't know where we go.
Well, I'm just, I bring everything that I can, I don't, I look through it 5 times, pass it
I
forward.
tried to put things together like this.
That's fine. I just, you know, this is stuff gonna go in. I suppose at the end when we have this, cause like right now, that kind of stuff is all scattered.
Right, right.
So, I think it can wait, I don't have any knowledge, I'm not working for this.
Right.
Yeah, I got everything scattered and everything.
Yeah.
That's that on,
I need to.
all right. It is 7:55. Is there anything else that we wanna talk about tonight, other than, when do we meet next? What do we wanna do next? We're getting into April. Wednesdays are the 2nd, the 9th, and the 16th.
I think
Do we want, go ahead.
if Carol puts this together and send it to us, I don't know what we can do without being in an official meeting, but if we could go back and forth.
Yeah.
Fix those areas.
Yeah, can we do
Read
that?
through it, fix everything, yeah. Spend some time on it.
Yeah.
Without a meeting, you're saying?
I don't think.
Well,
I think we can talk amongst ourselves, as long as we don't take any action.
Right.
Right.
Well, all you're gonna do is correct what I.
Yeah.
Right.
But if we do that, and then the next meeting,
And then come back and read through it.
then that's what we would.
Yeah.
Read through and approve?
Yeah,
Decide
well,
to-
yeah, read through and, I'm gonna be more adjustments.
Right.
Even if we do a lot of back and forth.
Correct.
What are you looking at for next meeting?
Well, we gotta decide what we're gonna do there, so we can have one. If we need to have one, when we wanna have, I guess we're looking at the 2nd, 9th, or 16th. 2nd's only a week away, I don't think we wanna do that yet.
I can't do the 2nd anyway.
What about the 9th and 16th?
I think I'm gonna be able to.
Alright, the 9th is out. Anybody have any conflicts on the 16th?
You're talking of,
April,
Yeah, I do.
you do,
16th.
alright. Some of us are.
Well, it depends what day, if we look at the 90-day fog thing, that worked out pretty good this time.
We got moisture, we didn't get much.
But we still got that.
We thinking, what are we thinking then?
It sounds like the 23rd is about the only thing.
April 16th? Is that the date?
That was the last one, but I think somebody,
I'm open April 16th, I was on
oh,
May 16th.
Oh, okay.
are you open April 16th? Or is that?
Yes.
You're open, but you could.
I think so.
Got the calendar off the refrigerator.
That's a good idea.
So April 16th at 6?
You know, you got the ones on the computer and everything, but the one on the refrigerator is the one that
Rules.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
So now we need to come up with an agenda.
16th of what?
Alright. So we'll figure the 16th will be our next meeting.
Doug, I wanna recognize, I was talking with Heather and this, again, discuss and get rolling on the community solar.
Yes.
404, yeah.
Yeah.
So between now and then, we should look into that 404.
Is that, how is that progressing?
Yeah, last time I talked to Dean, and I didn't get an update on it, I looked it up before I came up, and the last thing I saw was the February 13th thing, but Dean seems to think, the last time I talked to him, that it was progressing and stuff, but, even if that is not, we still have to get something done on that scale.
What do you mean that?
Something for an ordinance for community solar.
Oh,
That should be a lot easier.
Yeah.
That should be.
Should be.
Should be.
Yeah.
as long as Carol's computer.
And I'll try
Give me
to,
something on.
I'll gather some more information on that and get you everything that we can on it, but it should be on the agenda.
Email it out to us
Yep,
between now and April 16th.
yeah, as soon as I get it, I'll,
Set that house file 404.
Yeah. And Wade, you're gonna email me Madison and Des Moines, these things. Your email list, right? Okay. I'll email you if I don't hear from you.
You want, yeah, just.
I just
section
need
that I
those two,
printed.
just those two things that you printed off tonight, I just
Okay.
need them in computer so I can open the doc and cut and paste.
So then we're gonna review and motion to approve these changes we made tonight.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
At our next
As
meeting.
they're worded, but we'll still need the legal to really fit stuff together, get the A's and the B's and the J's and the K's. And the ones
yeah,
that
we'll
two,
do like what we
three.
did with this one, you get it the way you want it, I'll send it to Brent, and then it'll.
We'll get it to make sense and
Yeah.
then we'll send it on, yeah.
And hope he can make sense of it.
And then what about this note we have about the county engineer thing? Is that gonna be something we need to add to the agenda or,
What was that?
Well, that's something we need to ask legal,
right?
Teeth?
How can they enforce it?
the enforcement, yeah, that's,
Oh, okay.
that Brent would need to. Or, you know, that,
Okay.
Talk to the county engineer, maybe talk to the sheriff.
yeah, what,
Oh, like for the enforcement stuff?
Enforcement,
Yeah, I could ask the county attorney too.
Or is that you?
Yeah, I can, well, in some cases it is, we'll ask the county attorney what they recommend, how that should be.
So are you gonna ask him?
Yeah,
Okay,
sure will.
alright.
Between now and our next meeting.
Well, that should be, that's not until Wednesday or
16th, right, so we've
Yeah.
got,
May not be able to get a hold of him tonight, but I'll.
well, but you got 3 weeks almost,
Yeah,
right?
I like to do the stuff right away. so-
Right, so you don't forget.
Yeah.
So that'll be on the agenda then, Bob,
Okay.
right? I think that covered it.
Thanks, guys.
That's good.
So I'll put down,
Pretty good getting through this tonight.
we'll go over county attorney's recommendations. on
Yeah,
it.
that was-
we chewed through a good chunk of things tonight there.
So, a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second,
Then move to second adjourn, and have no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion adjourned, meeting adjourned. Motion accepted.
Thank you very
So,
much, everyone.
Doug,
Yeah, thank
for
you,
the-
everybody.
For the land use plan, are you guys, that's what you're revising and coming back to later?
No, we
That,
signed
we
that.
signed that.
You did sign that, okay.
4 out of 5.
Except, okay,
So
I
this.
missed somewhere in between. I heard you guys, we'll send it out from Carol and revise it. I'm like, wait, that? Okay, okay. Oh, Carol, I sent the Madison link to Bob because I didn't have your email, so you should at least have the Madison one.
Oh, okay.
Yep, I forwarded it to you.
I didn't hear that you needed Des Moines, or I would have sent that too, sorry.
And
Apparently I just.
this will go to the supervisors and or the
So I
sign.
just need the
Okay.
Des Moines
They,
County one.
we came back from the county attorney.
Got reworded all legalese.
Yeah, he's new. They did an excellent job. There was just that one little thing that they had to add. And,
Well, good job for not needing revisions by an attorney.
I mean, some of that stuff, it comes back and I gotta look up what the hell that means, you know? And then, yeah, 376, that's
I
done.
think after the first 2 months of the city manager, she
For
might
right
turn it
now.
around.
Unless last year too, they'll bring it.
Okay.
It got further than it did last year.
Islanders are up 2-1. We're watching the listening to the game at home. Hope you don't mind.
Thank you, everybody. on the board. Appreciate it.
I gotta go give her a hard
Thank
time.
you so much, everybody.
Sure looks like it. Yeah, chances into tomorrow. Maybe we'll be able to put in that. Put a what?
Oh, well, won't be the first time, won't be the last.
Yeah, they're so, that's a lot. They're in different orders. Yeah. I copied the same thing. I think we got everything.
That's too bad. I wonder if, like, over at, Little Wall Lake,
Are there ordinances?
on the.
Yeah.
It's not mentioned,
Oh, like Utility Solar.
Solar, and I think it runs their campground. So.
We'll see how that one comes out.
Because they will not.
I personally don't.
We need to limit, we need to say how many acres, right?
We have a contract.
Yeah.
Well, it goes up to. Up to a certain megawatt, whatever. So
Utility Solar does?
Yeah, they were saying that.
That's the biggest downfall.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with that.
It's the worst. Nuclear is the most expensive.
Solar got to be on that brownfield area or something?
Set empty.
Expanding.
I'd like to.
It's got a big.
Remember. Brownfield is like, you know, like former industrial site, so it's command or commercial site, commercial site or. Right, right.
If you run it,
They might, that might be like.
I don't know if that's part of it, it's only doing it.
But you're.
See, like, a good example is like trash.
This thing is something good.
Right, right.
Where's that one at?
And
Outside of Fairman.
Yeah, right at Fairman, man.
Off 63.
Oh,
to the east.
I'm so, I go by that all the time, I'm not even.
Yeah.
It's all the solar panels right there on the corner.
But if you're
It
going
does not
one way,
say
you
that.
gotta look
Well,
back and see.
I'm usually focused on I gotta get where I'm
Like you're
going.
supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
On the floor.
Although I've always like, ever since, you know, that area kind of moved down in the derecho, I always wonder what they were gonna do. And every once in a while I see a bunch of, somebody sitting there, I'm like, oh, they turned it into something, and then it's empty, and I'm like, oh, they didn't.
You know, I could never figure out, like, you know, most people stuff
And
that.
assign it, a lease. And decide, okay, all they're working on.
Brandon, we did everything.
No, no.
On your own property.
Yeah, the,
You
you know, they'd have.
I'm just hoping there's carve out for the communities. Like RACs.
Doing all this.
While you're driving.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what their CSR.
Okay, the person that's right talks on the radio.
It's nice meeting you.
Yep. Then he said, except for Bob and Brad, because they're used to doing that, and I was like, well, I'd rather have them talk and I can drive.
Yeah, it makes it a lot easier, doesn't it?
Just beat up on you.
No, not at all.
Just good to get information.
Yeah. Crazy. Learning about this, because I hate it.